from just one simple thing. And in my old school, we always did the brighter grammar exercise during the extramural class, right? So maybe during lesson R, that is when we do it. So that's when we do brighter grammar. And when you're already tired and you get a whole lot of assignment again, and it just feels like they're actually after your life. And they really told us a whole lot of lies. Don't worry, it's not time to gist yet. I like to gist. One of the biggest lies they told us then was when you get to the universities, everything will be easy. Wow, those guys really lied to us, sincerely. Our teachers were politicians, I think. Yeah, so let's go back. So for real, so everybody really feel you are really great, you are good, you are that, but within you, you see this guy punching his head down. He's really going through a whole lot of stress and all of that. And trust me, there was this day I got an opportunity to write. The first time I featured on LinkedIn News, it was a senior marketing editor that reached out to me during the Black Lives Matters campaign. She said she needed the article the following day so that she can feature it in the news category. And it was not easy. I had to come up with content the following morning. As a matter of fact, it was that morning I started writing it, edited, and everything. So I really felt like this guy. And it was not easy. But then from the article, I developed a concept called squinting strategy. And what she did was she encouraged me to develop it. And of course, maybe in some years' time, if I'm not dead yet, if you hear the concept of squinting strategy and they don't give me credit for it, please sue them on my behalf. Okay, yeah, so let's go back to our training. So for some of us, it's not really the idea of the stress that goes to content writing, is that you always procrastinate. Oh, sorry. We always procrastinate, not only you guys. I procrastinate a whole lot too. So maybe you are like this guy, the list of books that you have actually finished writing, and you are trying to look at, oh, how many content have you written this week? And it's probably just zero, right? And I'm very sure for some of us, we feel like, oh, and what's it called? You really want to write, you want to do a whole lot of things, you have your goals, you have your expectation, but you feel discouraged to write. And I'm just going to share you two tips that I use to write content. The first thing is burst effort, right? So how does burst effort really work? It goes to say, okay, maybe you've gone through the stage of writing your outline and all of that, and you have a topic already, or you could use burst effort at different stages, right? So you just use burst effort in context of, you tell yourself that in the next 10 minutes you're going to focus on crafting topic for the next content you're going to write. So you spend 10 minutes, no distraction, nothing, you focus on it. And make sure, the beautiful thing is, or the where it gets a bit freakish is, when you're done with the 30 minutes, don't, it will, you feel tempted to want to use an extra minute to say, okay, yeah, okay, let me just finish this thing. No, when it's 10 minutes, stand up, right? Because that is really where post effort really gets effective. So sit down, put 30 minutes into drafting your content for the week or something. And really, I believe so much in the 80-20 rule. I don't know if you do. When you want to carry out a task, it's only 20% of the time that you really spend doing what you're doing. Maybe I'm sharing an interview with you that really talks about that, for real. So we burn a whole lot of brain power doing nothing, thinking about nothing. And why we think we're actually doing something, but you are doing nothing. And you burn a whole lot of brain power. A task you ought to do for 10 minutes, you are doing it for an hour because you feel you have enough time, or because you feel you're not going anywhere. But how about you spend that 10 minutes doing what you actually want to do, or doing what needs to be done, and you spend 15 minutes relaxing? It helps you even much better, and it's easy to stress, right? So that's for box effort. Cut out little time of your time every day out of your time budget, right? And invest it in content writing. It goes a long way for you. And the second thing is creating, okay, let me just drop this one, is time blocking. So maybe you create blocks for different time of the day, and you tell yourself every evening you must write a content. Like, you see it as that kind of duty, and it's a burden on you, right? So it goes a long way. I'm very sure you got those two concepts. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And I will expect that you put, okay, I think that would be the first assignment. So I respect that you put that to practice and come up with as many content as you can ahead of next week, right? So you can either use time, what's it called, time blocking, a time of the day, or use burst efforts. So the idea is, instead of spending 1 hour doing nothing, burning brain power, feeling stressed, spend little time and do more. So now let's go to types of content. We have blog posts, right? So the most what's it called, known type of content that people, a whole lot of people, a whole lot of us know rather, is blog, right? Blogging. Literally everybody knows what blogging is: creating content and sharing on your website or a CMS. That is a content management system. Either you are using Joomla, Drupal, or WordPress, or you're using what's the last one? Or you're using the blogger, right? You're using blogger. So irrespective of anything, blog is for everyone. You can create a blog, you can write blog for people, irrespective of the industry you find yourself in. I was giving an example the other time. You're in marketing, you can write tips for marketing, tips for businesses, marketing tips for students. You are in the education line, you can write about different, and what's it called? You can write about educational system, you can write about how to be an effective teacher, you can write about how to draft a curriculum. You're in the medical line, you can write about symptoms of wherever diseases fits in. Like, just make it will amaze you that when you start doing these things, you just get a call from nowhere and people will just ask you, oh, come and do this thing for me. For real. I've had that a whole lot of time. There was this article I wrote on why African markets matters for LinkedIn. It has been featured on several platforms. When I check Google and I look for my name, today I've seen a platform that has published it. Tomorrow another platform has picked it, right? And how come I just drop something online and I feel like, okay, yeah, I just really want to share my idea, but a whole lot of people are reading it. So if tomorrow, God so good, LinkedIn open an office in Africa, I can come out tomorrow and say, yeah, I wrote a content that probably steer LinkedIn to open an office in Africa. Because of course I got a comment from the editor-in-chief of LinkedIn for the article, right? So it's just helps, it takes your career to a new different level when you write what's called blog content. Then the next one is case studies. This one is for marketers, right? So I don't know if there are marketers in the building. Shout out to all the marketers in the building. Yeah, that's just by the way on the light one. So there are case studies. If anyone has a question, I won't touch on that since I assume most of the people I'm talking to right now are not so technical content writers or are not marketers. Then there's videos, right? Video is also a form of content. Infographics for graphic designer. You don't even have to be a graphic designer to create infographics these days. You can use what's it called? There are a lot of graphics tools you can use. You can use Canva. There was a time I had several of them on my phone, right? But currently I use Canva for most of the design I do. So maybe you feel like, oh, I have a lot of ideas, I want to be sharing tips or something. Just create a template and share. You never know where your content will go to one day. And someone will just, I'm not sure if some content creators on this Zoom call has experienced that, where one big person or someone who is notable from nowhere just comes to your page and start liking all your content, right? So people are actually watching you, right? So infographics goes a long way too. Listicle really just mean list articles, right? It's a compound word. And what does it mean? It's an example of listicle is like saying 10 tips on what's it called? 10 tips on social media marketing, or 6 guide to effective social media marketing, right? Or 6 guides for social media marketers. So then you list it out, right? So listicles, really what most people do these days for marketers especially, they do listicles, right? Because nobody really have the luxury of time to read and read and read and burn out. So why not just create it in a list where people can easily grab it and they move on? Then there's news release and there's thought leadership. So I think thought leadership is the one that touches on every aspect of the industry. So thought leadership is you just positioning yourself as a great thinker in your field. So it's not age restricting. You can be a CV writer and be a thought leader. Why? Because you publish a whole lot of content or you talk about what you do. So when you talk about what you do and people actually listening, Of course, people will listen because they want to listen, and not everybody has feel like they need to teach. But when you feel they need to teach people, they tend to be amazed that, oh wow, this guy is a thought leader. I follow him because I really want to know what he has to say. And I've been doing that right from my 200 level. People started following me, even when I was not a graduate yet, right? So you don't need a BSc to be a thought leader or to position yourself as an expert in your field. It goes a long way for you. And these things could cast as work experience too. And I have this meme again as icebreaker. When you begin your first draft, it's like, okay, yeah, it's really interesting. And when you're done, you feel like, oh, the dark and difficult times lies ahead because you really need to pick it up and work on it again. Then when you're doing it again, or when you try to draft again, you feel like, oh wow, soon we must all face the choice between what is right and what is easy. I don't know if you got these memes, but then maybe I will just collate all the memes we use all through this section. So at the end of the training, I'm very sure it will make sense to you. Maybe when you start putting these things to practice, remember the assignment to draft content, right? Use burst effort and time blocking to draft as many content as you can. Okay, we use this meme already. Then what makes a great content? Great, yeah. What makes a great content? I think we're almost done with the lecture. What makes a great content? Number one, your introduction must be super, super good, right? It must hook, right? I wrote it that hook, the hook in your introduction, right? It's great. It must be great. And then writing, as I always like to tell people, writing is super easy than speaking. I don't know if you share the same sentiment with me. Did you hear that? If you share the same sentiment with me, say I in the content in the group chat, in the chat. Okay.
In the context.
Yeah, in the group chat. Oh, someone said I should go through the first tips. I don't know which of the first tips you mean. Don't worry, there'll be time to ask questions. Maybe then we'll make it a bit more interactive. Okay, yeah. So writing is easy than speaking. Why? As I'm speaking to you, some of you are feeling like, hey, Otitabon, or he has committed a grammatical blunder. But when I'm writing, I actually can sit down, read it again, and feel like, oh, this thing does not make sense. Oh, I can edit multiple times before I actually send it out, right? So it reduces the chances of me making error, right? But when I talk, it has gone. It has gone. And if not that I'm recording it or something, it has gone and it has gone forever. And if I make grammatical mistake, the grammatical mistake has been made and it is made. But for writing, you can actually go back, sit down, get an editor, edit it for you and all of them. So that's why I feel writing is really super easy. And I, for one, I write the way I talk. So there's no crime writing the way you talk. Like just put it. Okay, you want to teach someone how to be a digital marketer. Okay, the first thing I think you should do is, okay, maybe try out courses online. Okay, get certification, right? Okay, get certification. Okay, why should you get a certification? Getting a certification will position you as a professional. And of course, you get to learn some things during the course of the courses you take and all of that, right? So it's as if I'm saying it, but imagine me putting it down and what's it called? Putting it down in writing. So your writing should be conversational. Then you should be original, right? Be original, attribute sources, right? It goes a long way and it actually tells people that you've done the work. Then research a whole lot. Make your research and actually write about research. Writing stems from research. And craft compelling headline, we'll touch more on that. Write in short sentences, we've spoken about that. Carry out keyword research. That's for SEO writing. And of course, definitely we'll get to that. So I hope you've gotten all of that. And yeah, so before I call it a wrap, shouldn't you be writing right now? Yes or no? It's a rhetorical question. Shouldn't you be writing right now? For some people, they feel like, oh yeah, I really want to start, but I still feel discouraged. I've shared 2 tips for you. Use box effort or time blocking. And before you use box effort or time blocking, there are stages you have to plan. When you plan your writing, it makes it less stressful. And also, maybe for you, the reason why you're not writing is you feel like, oh, I don't need to write for my own industry, I don't need to grow, or I don't need writing to grow in my own industry. You're wrong. It will position you for opportunities that you don't need to apply for. I think there were okay, yeah. At the time, Joseph felt a bit reluctant about writing, right? And when he started writing, he told me there was this day he shared with me. There was this definition he wrote about CRM. And from nowhere, some guys picked up his content and they tweeted it as a definition. Like this is a big organization in the US, and they tweeted his own definition of CRM. So imagine he never wrote about it, and this is someone who is still in the university and is not winning his finals yet. You're getting attributions from this top class already. And if you want to take it a step further, this is something you can screenshot and just celebrate it on your social media platform and maybe share it occasionally. And people feel like, oh, wow, this guy has been featured on this platform. They credited him in this definition and all of that, right? So it goes a long way. Irrespective of the industry you find yourself in, there are some theories, some things your lecturers say in class, some things some scholars have said in 18 or 17 or 16 something that are not applicable right now. You can question this thing and start a new conversation entirely and put your own self, your country. Oh, I feel a bit reluctant to say that, but then yeah, put your country on the world map. So that is why you should write, if at all you've not been thinking of writing. So these are the resources for this specific training, and I hope to see you in week 2 when we get to discuss about content structure, types of content structures, crafting an headline, topic research, right? And I also hope to see you in week 3 when we talk about introduction to search engine optimization. Of course, we'll be having a much bigger class in week 3 because this is a very interesting topic and there's an organization willing to collaborate with us already to make sure that we have a very big class. So I will encourage you to be early for that. And the last class, we'll be talking about career path. And of course, I'll be sharing my own story as a content writer. I have journeyed through think and think to where I am right now and sharing tips on how to be a great content writer. So thank you so much for showing up. Let's have the Q&A section. Thank you. So just signify, I will call you, then you'll mute yourself, then okay. So someone says, why do you feel reluctant saying okay to put your country out there? Yeah, today I think the country, yeah, don't let's talk about that. We can chat about that later on. But then of course, let me tell you something. Being a freelancer or working online and you having Nigeria on your profile places you at a disadvantage. I'm sorry to say that, but being a Nigerian positions you or places you at a disadvantage. I'm sorry. So you're already at a disadvantage, but you have to be super good to be better at what you do. Okay, you mentioned something about assignments. I didn't get it. Yeah, I said everyone should use the 2 contents, what's it called? Writing method I shared with you, that is using box effort and time blocking to craft as many content as you can ahead of next week. So you could just craft a rough sketch or you can make it a full content. And of course, if your content is super great, you can have them published on our website. I'm very sure some of you know our website already. So if your content is super great, you can have them published and eventually be a contributor of our platform. I don't really want to talk about that extensively here, but let's see the content we're getting. So maybe we'll dwell more on that first next week before we go into the class. Will you please go through the first tips? I don't know what. Okay, was it when I was talking about? Okay, someone said most of us skipped that. Okay, bust. Yeah, it is bust, not box. Like for something to bust out. Yeah. So I think the first tip that you probably miss rather is the first tip you probably miss is let me see if I can get it. I think hook, yeah, hook in your introduction. So your introduction should hook the readers. And I was hoping maybe someone will ask questions on how to craft an introduction or something. But it seems nobody is asking that. I will bypass that. But really, I want us to not waste our time on this training if we don't intend to go into content writing fully. Okay, can you put the assignment you said into writing? Okay, didn't get it. Okay, yeah. Use time blocking or burst effort strategies. Okay, I don't think there are no questions, right? So let me just make this announcement. I think I'll drop it on the group. I'll drop the assignment on the group too. To craft content ahead of the next class. Yeah. So use time blocking and burst effort strategies to craft. Yeah. So either please explain the two concepts. Okay, I said time blocking really deals with just as we have the what's it called, the block chart, bar chart, right? So you divide your days into different blocks. So maybe you tell yourself that the last block will be in the evening or in the night, right? And your last block will be for writing. So you make sure you don't do anything than write on that day, right? So that's what time blocking really is. And burst effort says since we spend 20% of the time doing 20% of the time doing the actual task and 80% researching or probably just stressing ourselves on every task we do. So why not just actually commit the 20% to do what we actually want to do rather than get distracted? Why you can spend the rest of the 80% to relax. So I for one, I can say I want to spend the next 15 minutes to write content and I make sure that I commit the 15 minutes to writing, and writing is all I do, right? So once the 15 minutes clocks or elapse, I make sure that I leave the task and get to do something else, right? Then I come back using another time post and what's it called? Allotting another time for me to bust on the task, right? To complete it or finish it up. So that is that about that. And of course, I'm not very sure. I'm considering, or I will pitch it to the team that maybe we should have a certificate for this class. But it really depends on everyone's response. Yeah, if the response is super awesome, I think we can consider a certificate for this class. Yeah, and of course, the certificates we go for a token, but we are not rushing it. It will be it might not even be for everyone because it will be based on participation and of course our reputation will be on the line. So I will encourage us to just be super active all through the class. So you might want to put the certificate at the back of your mind when writing. And yeah, and finally, content writing is a big deal. Okay, someone says certificate is great, it's good, yeah. So let's hope people will merit it because I believe in giving certificate of merit. And finally, you might be thinking you're in the medical line and all of that. Sincerely, my supervisor at work, she studied, she's supposed to be in the medical line. My boss did science. So as a matter of fact, my boss almost made it into the football academy before eventually started writing. So in today's world, writing is for everybody. So is either you want to write to position yourself as an expert, which is great, or you want to write to, and what's it called? Which is great. Or you want to write to share your ideas with the world, great. You want to write to position yourself for opportunities, great. And some people write to be immortal, like you don't want your name to go off the radar. You want to exist for as long as the world exists. It's possible. Just write something and put it online, and people will be grateful, and you yourself will be grateful. And yeah, so that's just a beautiful thing. There was this debate I recently saw of a man in 1950s, right? And the man went viral. And today his children are saying, yeah, that man is my father. And people actually say, wow, your father was great, blah, blah, blah. What do you, it's, writing is also a way of living legacy for your younger ones, your generation, and all of that. So all those crazy ideas in your head, I'm encouraging you, I'm pitching it to you that please and please put it out there and share it with the world. Yeah, so I think at this junction, is there anything else to say? You mentioned drafting your content first before writing. Please, can you shed more light? Great. Okay, yeah. So for me, before I write, what I do is I make my research. And these days, I barely make research because I read a whole lot. I read a lot of what is it called? Newsletters, right? And what newsletter does it helps me to know where to, what's it called? It helps me to know where discussions should stem from, right? So maybe for you, you have to research, right? So maybe when you're doing your research, you notice, oh, people are talking about how to craft a resume, and no one is talking about how to structure a resume. And people actually want to know how to structure a resume or what shouldn't be on your resume. And you feel like, okay, yeah, I really want to write on that. First thing, you've gotten a topic. Second thing, draft an outline, like a lesson note, right? So remember, okay, let me use this note as an example. Remember your biology notes. Remember, biology notes are always bulky and they have a lot of sub topics, right? So that's how your content should be. You have introduction. You talk about, okay, this is how to structure. Structuring your resume is very important for you to know how to structure a resume, because 28% of people structure their resume correctly end up landing their dream job. People will be like, wow, I think I can make it 29 if I can people feel like, okay, maybe if I should structure my resume, then I stand a chance of getting a job already without your introduction. Then you talk about what a resume is, talk about resume writing, you talk about what again? You talk about expert opinions on resume writing and why you should structure your resume correctly. Maybe you're quoting the lead recruiter at Google, or you're quoting someone who is reputable, right? Then you can then go into your topic and say, okay, 6 quick steps to structure your resume, or signposts to watch to structure your resume. So remember the outline, introduction, talking about what a resume is, talking about resume writing, talking about why it is important, and just kind of breaking it down into subheading. I hope you get that. Please, if you get that, say yes. Okay, yeah, so our time is going, 10 minutes to go. Then how do we put the ideas running through our heads together? Great. What I recommend you do is write it out, right? Write your ideas out. Nothing grows in your head, right? Nothing grows in your head. And even when you write them down, you still have to execute them, right? And so just do yourself the favor of writing them down first. So when you write them down first, even if you don't have the luxury of time, maybe it's a new discovery you want to work on or something, and you feel you don't have the resources, write about it, right? So when you write them down, don't just stop at that. Think of how you can develop it, right? And one thing that will really make it very easy for you to develop is to draft an outline for each of those ideas. So maybe when I conceived the idea of squinting strategy, I felt disturbed until I shared it, right? So for me, it was an idea and I wrote it down. So imagine I never wrote squinting strategy. Today, I probably will not remember. And that's why they say the faintest ink is sharper than the sharpest brain or the smartest brain. So write it down. When you write it down, visit it over time, draft an outline for each of those ideas and write on them. So if you're a creative writer, you have a story idea in your head, write the story idea, and maybe you visit it using burst effort occasionally, or you visit it using any of those strategies. So any more question? I will encourage us after this class. I will encourage us if we can just share your review of this class on the group chat, and of course, if you would share your review of the class on the group chat, and I will appreciate it if you can share it on your social media platforms, either on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, or any platform. Just share what you learned, some of the ideas, some of the things you gained. Share it online, and you can tag Savon, or you can tag me as well. Or you could tag Joyce, who is our content lead. It will go a long way. The beautiful thing is, of course, it will go a long way to give the organization, what's it called, credibility and all of that. But what it does to you also is people tend to feel like, oh wow, this guy attended the content writing class, and that might just be the only post that, should I call it a destiny helper, right? Or maybe that is the only post someone in your network, or your friend, one of your friends has been waiting for you to share. And when you just share, oh, I took a class on content writing, you'll be like, oh wow. So how about you come and help me manage my job? You can get a job through that. How about you come help me manage my blog rather? So you can get a job through that. So I'm encouraging you to share what you learn, and who never can tell is going to get a job from that. It sounds prophetic anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So what else? Any more question? Don't worry. I'm very sure when we get to week 2, it will get more interesting. And of course, if you've been publishing content, I will encourage you to share it on the group page so I can probably just audit your content and tell you ways to improve your content. And I look forward to your assignment. And your assignment also, you can share them on Google Documents. It's way a long way if you can do that. And yeah, I think that was all. So